On this episode, I am getting into uncommon ways to get started in government contracting and picking out a couple of my favorites so that you can go ahead and get started as well. So go ahead, push play, and I'll catch you on the inside. Welcome back, Bold Move Besties, to another episode of She Built Success. I am your host, Claudia. Now, before we get into this episode, if you have not already, go ahead and click the subscribe button here on YouTube. And if you are on audio only, not a problem. I got you covered. Hit that subscribe button and make sure that you leave a comment. You know, I love to hear back from you what you thought about the episode. All right, let's get into it. So I want to talk about some of the uncommon ways that you are able to get started in government contracting. And I say that because, you know, as a small business, you might have been thinking about government contracting, but you're not quite sure where you fit in, if you even fit in. And I want to dive into some of the ways that we're not talking about government contracting and how you can actually get in. And with this, I hope that it sheds a little bit of light on what is possible outside of the box. So I know I've talked about this before, but SAM.gov is probably one of the most popular ways to look up federal contracts or federal solicitations, I should say. And of course, we know that we can go on there. You can also, bid for the various contracts that are available, solicitations that are available to be awarded as a contract. And SAM.gov, while it's a great resource, is not always small business friendly. You can use it. You can use it to look for the vendors. You can use it to look out for opportunities where you could partner with other vendors or with the larger companies that are serving as prime, or even with small businesses who are also serving as prime, but they're just a larger small business in that group. So that is kind of what we traditionally talk about when we talk about getting into government contracting, or at least what I've heard, people say. I kind of heard about this thing where they have contracts, they call them contracts on a website that the government maintains. Well, that's SAM.gov. It's there, it's available, but I want to talk about things that people aren't talking about because you know what? I want you to win. So here we go. One of the first elements, or one of the first ways that you can actually get into government contracting, is through what's known as micro purchases. You may sometimes hear me call them P cards, which is short for purchase cards. In the DoD space, it's government purchase cards, but it's all the same. And government purchase cards are basically a way to award a contract that is under $10,000. So if you are a small business and you have a product or a service, as a product is physical, I would assume you would go in quantities. If you have a service, it would be the rate for your services. And you can offer that to agencies who have a requirement. I know in another episode, I was talking about like different niches that the government, particularly look for contracts for things like alligator removal services, for instance. So if you have that kind of a niche market, that may be a win for you. I don't remember the dollar amount for that particular contract, but I'll link the episode so you can go ahead and listen to it. But I think that is an opportunity to potentially be a P card, depending on how large the initiative is. The other element, or the other piece within this whole purchase card and micro purchasing space, is what's known as simplified acquisitions. So simplified acquisitions are contracts that can be issued that are under $250K. That is another way to get started in government contracting. There are a few different rules, and one is where you're able to sole source a contract. And I do want to get in that. And I do want to glance at my notes because I do have a couple of ones that when I was doing some of this research, I was like, okay, I like the way that this is being laid out as far as the option. So I do want to hit on it. So I talked about micro purchases. I talked about simplified acquisitions, agency outreach. So this is things like industry days. So what happens in the government space, there are agencies who want to put on industry days where we can meet with us as vendors, and we can meet sometimes a small business specialist, sometimes program office leads, who can say, hey, these are our requirements, can your business potentially fulfill it? Or reverse, which is, and they call those like matchmaking, where you're meeting up with other prime vendors, existing prime vendors, where you could talk about what your services are. And then they can in turn say, is this a fit? Is this not a fit? Now, I know I've talked about industry days in the past on prior episodes, but I have a love-hate relationship with it. It needs to be fruitful. Like, don't just be going just to be going. I mean, by all means, if it's your first time, And I'll preface this, industry days, I have not seen a paid industry day. This is what the government is hosting. The ones that I've seen have always been free. So if you want to go just to kind of see what it's about, go for it. But I would say go with a game plan. So if your intent is to understand what the requirements are of a particular agency as a vendor, go with that in mind and listen to what they're talking about as requirements or challenges or opportunities that they see coming down the pipe. Like, that's how you leverage industry days. You're not there necessarily to just pass out your business card, which is why I said I have a love-hate relationship with it. It is really you being strategic. Are you going there to look for other primes? Are you going there to start building relationship with other primes? Primes, again, are the larger companies that would support contracts. And with that, let me mention this. When a contract is awarded, what typically happens, a multi-million-dollar contract is awarded, there is an element that is called a subcontracting plan. And that is where prime vendors, so the winners of that contract, the large companies usually, are required to subcontract out the work. That there's a $700,000, sorry, threshold, or not threshold, but subcontracting plan. So if it's over that amount, there's going to be the opportunity for you to speak to prime vendors and, start building those relationships to maybe in the future get on one of those contracts. So, and that would be as a subcontractor to that prime. So that's another unique way of approaching just getting started and winning your first contract in government contracting. The other one, so agencies have, so I talked about SAM.gov at the top and how you can go on there and look up contracts and do bidding. Agencies have this thing called a forecast. And this is where they are, the good ones anyway, update it regularly and say, we're projecting for quarter one, to be putting on this particular contract and this particular solicitation to meet this requirement. And then quarter three, we're looking at the next one, and quarter four, so forth and so on. You get it. And so it's forecasting what are the potential opportunities or potential contracts, solicitations that can come in. Now, just because they put it on the forecast doesn't guarantee that it will become an actual solicitation, but they're trying their best as an agency to put forth to the business community, both large and small, of what potential opportunities are available. Now, I know Department of Education has a forecast. I mean, again, majority of the agencies, if you just type in the agency name and forecast, you should be a government forecast. You should be able to see a website link to be able to track that, and whichever agencies you're looking at, look at their forecast. But the cool thing about it is the forecast does not necessarily exist in SAM.gov. It's specific to that agency. And so it allows you to see what's coming up and how you can start, again, building those relationships, positioning your company as the go-to for that service, or again, partnering with other vendors. So just keep that in mind, that the forecast per agency is something that you can leverage to your advantage to get just that more closer to winning your first contract. Okay, so this one here, I actually like a lot because it wasn't until recently that I didn't actually know there was a contract between them until one, talking off camera to folks, and then the other was just, I've always heard it, but I never really thought of it. And this is partnering with universities and or research institutions. So you can go on, again, as potentially a subcontractor. And I think of the research institutes, I think of the Brookings Institute. The Brookings Institute, which is a nonprofit that operates in that space of policy and governance and does a lot of research and is contracted out by the government. And I believe that if you were going in, so let's say you are a statistician or you're in the data space, or I said statistics already, statistician, data space, or you specialize in some type of quantitative or qualitative research, that there may be a place for you to be able to fit in as a subcontractor, and you can help depending on where you fall in the hierarchy. So there is Prime, which is the company that holds the contract, that is executing on the contract. Then there are subcontractors, but sometimes the subcontracting process can be layered. So if you go into a prime, if you're working with a prime and you're like, I would like to be a subcontractor, if you don't have enough past performance or experience, or your team might not be large enough, they will more than likely, well, if they're good, if they're nice primes, they'll refer you to one of their tier one subcontractors. And so that means that prime and then tier one has a contract together, and then you would be under there as a tier two. So just think of it that way, that there's nothing wrong with being a tier two. I've done subcontracts as a tier two, between my company, not myself, but my company and another company on a larger prime contract. So there's nothing wrong with it. You still can get the past performance, and it'll allow you to continue to build and get used to what it's like to do government contracting work and the agency, because one of the benefits now, I mean, there's things like non-competes and all that kind of stuff, but one of the benefits of getting into an agency is being able to kind of understand and see more at a detailed level the different program offices or potential opportunities where you could leverage your company. And it might be like a small piece of the work, or it might be something in a completely different program office that you could leverage that would allow you to get your own small contract, right? And there might be a P card opportunity or purchase card opportunity or micro purchase, all one and the same, that you get out of that. So keep that in mind when you're thinking of how you can approach getting into government contracting. Like, I'm not gonna say it's not difficult, because there are its challenges, but it is something that is attainable and achievable. Okay, so let's keep going. The last one that I wanted, two more that I wanted to talk about. This one is a sole source justification. So you remember how we were talking about at the top, we were kind of talking about niches, and I did an episode on like certain, it was like odd contracts or something like that the government does. And we were referring to just specializing in something. So if you have that, like you specialize in something, maybe you have a proprietary software that fulfills a requirement, like they can do a sole source justification and hire just your firm or just your company to come on and execute the work. So that is another way but that requires you to know what the strategic plan of an agency is. That requires you to know what their requirements are. That requires you to stay in tune with it to make sure that you're not just shooting darts, because we're not, it's strategic. Remember that. So sole source justification is really good. The next one is any accelerators or incubators that the government backs. That is another, like that one was new to me. I actually didn't know that was a possibility. So that is where the government has accelerators that push you directly into like contract opportunities. I did think about the Innovation Lab. I don't remember whether or not that is actually considered an accelerator, because I've come across their grouping or buckets of work in the past. I'm not sure if they consider that an accelerator, but I'll do some more digging and get you the real roll on it. I might go live on it and talk about it. But that's another option that you have when being able to get started in government contracting. So it's not just SAM.gov. To me, SAM.gov is a really big pool of opportunity, but oftentimes is the large multi-million-dollar contracts that small businesses realistically are not in that position to go after. And so we want you to get your foot in the door. We want you to get experience and acclimated. And it's something that if you take any of these routes or even start exploring any of these routes would be advantageous to your company, because we don't have time to stutter step and make up excuses as to why we can't get started when you clearly can get started with your line of business for government contracting. So I will say, out of those, to me, the one that's probably the most, I have two that are the most like near and dear to me. One of them is micro purchases or P card, and the other one is simplified acquisition, because that right there is your in. That is you, because you'll cover all bases. You hopefully will have the capability brief. You will be able to start talking to the program office. You will be able to start interacting with the folks that are on the ground on the project and deliver your services. So to me, or your product, but to me, purchase cards or micro purchases and simplified acquisitions are your easy way in. Now, if you're like, yeah, but I don't know where to start, I got you. So here's what you're going to do. If you go to shebuildsuccess.com/coach, you will be able to join the waitlist for our cohort for our Ready, Set, Gov accelerator. And it's a 12-week accelerator where we go and get you from start to finish to have your government offer. So I highly encourage you, if it's something that you may be thinking about, there's no commitment to say, hey, I'm raising my hand because I'm kind of interested. Don't worry. I got you too, because I ain't trying to make you feel overwhelmed. But it is a walk through step-by-step process that allows you to build out your government service or product offering. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I definitively prefer services just because that is the space that I typically operate in. But product is there as well, and the accelerator would work for you as well. If that's something that you're looking to get into, no pressure. Okay, so finally, the last thing that I wanted to say is if you're looking to get into government contracting, no matter the path, it may be as a subcontractor, it may be as a tier 2, it may be as a tier 1. I mean, depending on where you are in your business journey. The only thing that I ask for you, and this is your homework, is to take bold moves and bold action. So go on to SheBuiltSuccess.com/coach. If you need any resources, we have plenty of resources in government contracting, including our government contract startup kit. We have the coaching opportunity where you're able to join a 12-week accelerator with your peers to get you from start to ready to swipe that credit card on government purchases. So, Bold Move Besties, I'll catch you on the next episode of She Built Success. Bye. What's up, Bold Move Besties? Guess what I'm offering? Government contract coaching for small businesses. It is your opportunity to get the real, the relevant, and the way to do government contracting correctly with the federal, local, and state government. Inside, you will get details on how to start in government contracting all the way through winning your first contract, which is, by the way, not guaranteed, but we're trying to get you there. So if you're interested, please sign up in the link below, and I will catch you in the next cohort. Go ahead and apply today. Visit ReadySwipeGov.com to get started.